CBS News foreign affairs correspondent Margaret Brennan has been traveling with the president. She joins us now by phone. Margaret, what's the purpose that the president has for stopping in Berlin today?
Well, Germany has become really the economic engine for the rest of a struggling Europe, and it has become in many ways the leadership within Europe. I remember it's Angela Merkel who opened the doors and the gates of Germany to hundreds of thousands of Syrian refugees and others fleeing conflicts, those who've washed up on the shores of Europe in the past few months, causing a migration crisis on this continent. So Germany, President Obama points to its leader, Angela Merkel, as his closest ally. So this was supposed to be a farewell tour, a thank you to her, and also some hope to bolster her standing, given that there is an upcoming 2017 election, and she's under some populist pressure at home right now. Since the election of Donald Trump, the tone's changed. Now President Obama is really in explaining mode. He's not only sitting down with Angela Merkel, but he's also going to be sitting down with the heads of France, the UK, Italy, Spain, really all the world powers coming to Berlin to say, what is next for America? What will America's leadership be? What does this mean, particularly in regard to President-elect Donald Trump's outreach to Russia? So there are as many questions being asked as there are answered right now.
Margaret, I found it fascinating that the president at one point in Athens said the current path of globalization needs a course correction. This is a president who has led, many say, the world in becoming more open to globalization, and now he seems to be backtracking from that. What do you make of it?
It was interesting. I think that's a little bit of a nod to the populist wave in the United States that pushed Bernie Sanders as far along as in the Democratic primaries, and some of a nod to the kind of populist anger that Donald Trump has effectively and successfully harnessed when talking about the forgotten man in America. That is, the people who felt that globalization, the fast-changing economy, social media, the fast-moving information world has sort of left them behind. And this has been a theme President Obama has touched on the past 2 days, clearly doing some internal examination himself in the wake of Hillary Clinton's loss of this election to say, you know, what blind spots do I have? And this idea that globalization has alienated as many people or more that it has benefited is something that he's trying to reconcile. And so while standing in the birthplace of democracy right here in Greece, he acknowledged, you know, this is not only the best system, but there are real dark sides to populist movements. And with that, he went into talking about the worrisome nationalist movements, the tribalism, the ethnic tones, the us versus them kind of theme that you're seeing pop up in the streets of Greece, of Germany, and in the UK. And you saw some of that violence in the wake of the Brexit vote. He's concerned about some of that as well back in the United States, and has really been kind of trying to come to terms with leaving after 8 years, a legacy now where he's handing off to someone who's been, as he would argue, stirring the pot of some of that populist sentiment rather than trying to bring people together. So he's been very careful in choosing his words when talking about Donald Trump, but that is clearly who he has in mind.
Margaret, before we let you go, I want to ask you about the riots and the protests during President Obama's time in Greece. Do you expect to see riots and protests in Germany as well?
We don't know yet. President Obama's popularity, while it had been soaring in Europe, many people, particularly when he was voted into office, cheered his election. He's less popular in Europe now, but I've got to tell you, he still very much is praised for universal health care and a lot of his very familiar programs to Europeans. But in Germany, he and Angela Merkel are very, very tight, very, very close allies. He will be warmly welcomed by her. The German people feel very frustrated, some of them. I mean, as divided as America is, I think it's fair to say Europe is as well. The migrant crisis, the refugee flood from Syria, the economic fallout from the debt crisis here has left a lot of people angry and some frustrated that America didn't do more in the wake of the refugee crisis, and that when President Obama argues for debt relief for a country like Greece, which didn't pay its bills, as the German, many of the German finance ministers would argue. They shouldn't be rewarded for that. President Obama is advocating for debt relief, and that has really frustrated some Germans as well. So he's getting he'll get a mixed reception, but certainly a warm one when he walks in to sit down with Angela Merkel himself.
And I should say that the video that you're seeing now, I believe, is from Greece and not Germany, which is where the president is right now. Margaret Brennan joining us. Thank you so much, Margaret, for filling us in on this. We appreciate it.
Thank you.